it, we can feel it. So we have to, we're referred to as a third world country because we're not first world. So at this point in time, I feel we must, no matter what we do, put the right person to lead us. He has the capacity, he's intelligent, we've seen it, we've experienced it. Some of the things that he created in Lagos was taken over by the federal.
We are not asking for a problem who will be running relay. Is it relay we are asking him to come and run? We are asking him to come and transfer that technology, that thing in his head, to people, which he has been doing over the years. Look at the number of people he has built. A lot of them are doing fantastically well.
The socio-political group Yoruba Oke Oyafun Asiwaju Ati Shetima Yofas is a pressure group of Yorubas who live in the 19 northern states of the country, with the sole purpose of mobilizing voters for the actualization of the presidency of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate, Senator Kasim Shettima, for the 2023 presidential elections. Most of them were born in the northern part of the country and have their families, careers, businesses, and livelihoods there. The membership of Yofas is drawn from all facets of the economy, consisting of professionals like lawyers, doctors, engineers, and accountants. Other members are taxi drivers, artisans, and other auxiliary workers in various sectors of the economy. The objective of this town hall meeting is to sensitize its membership on the need to participate in the 2023 general elections, particularly to actualize the presidential aspirations of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate Kasim Shettima. The town hall meeting hosted zonal coordinators for the 19 northern states in 3 zones of the federation, namely the Northwest, North Central, and the Northeast. The zonal coordinators took turns to elaborate on their level of preparedness as well as the likely challenges in their locations. Present at the meeting was the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, who himself has lived most of his early life in the north.
Having them come together from all the states, 19 states in the north, as Yofas is unprecedented. It shows collective action. It shows unity amongst them. It gives them identity. And of course, they want to be part of the political campaign because you have a Yoruba man running as president, and we need every Yoruba person, we need every Nigerian to be behind it. So I think it's a very laudable initiative, and that's why I'm here to identify with them.
The essence of this meeting is to put all the Yoruba indigenous from a resident in 19 northern states together to be able to vote for Asiwaju and Shettima come 2023 general election.
Women, when we are talking of building homes, women are not left behind. They are even first. So with this, our women are ready. They are ever ready. As they are ever ready, they are very ready to stand by us, to stand by Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Shettima and APC on this movement.
The meaning literally means that all the Yorubas in the 19 northern states come together to show solidarity support for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, not because he's our father, not because he's our son, but we believe that he has the capacity and the capability of steering the leadership of this, our great country, Nigeria, to the best and the highest level we can imagine.
Adav Talib Atta, Alive News.
Youth bulge has become a common phenomenon in most developing countries. Accounting for 70% of the country's population, it is no longer contention about how numbers speak volumes for a country, society, and organization. The United Nations in July released the 2022 World Population Proposals. The report projected that global population will reach the 8 billion mark by 2050 and that India will surpass China as the most populous country in the world with a whopping 1.66 billion people. Nigeria, according to the projection, will be the fourth most populated country on earth with 375 million people, with youth accounting for about 262 million of this population. What does this mean for Nigeria? How does Nigeria then react to this bulge? Is Nigeria's youth bulge a bane or a boon? We will find answers to these questions on today's edition of the program. Welcome to Politics Alive, everyone. I am Olugbenga George.
They can't control me. You get what I'm saying?
Kanye West has revealed that he believes the death of his mother, Donda West, was part of a large plan for Hollywood to control and traumatize him, saying she was sacrificed. In a new clip shared by The Shade Room, Ye revealed his theory while speaking to paparazzi from the passenger side of his car. He claimed he wasn't the only black billionaire to have made a sacrifice and that right now he is only in servitude to God.
I ain't taking no slice from nobody. It's God.
My mama ain't here, Kanye West stated. My mama was sacrificed. Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son. Dr. Dre, his son. Out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing.
My mama ain't here. My mama was sacrificed. Me too. You understand? Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son, right? Dr. Dre, his son. You're out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing.
It feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control and traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize, he continued. Ye also brought up other black celebrities like Shaquille O'Neal, who have condemned his recent behavior, as he asserted that he will not be controlled. They can't control me, he stated. They can control Shaq, they can control Charles Barkley, they can control LeBron James, they can control Jay-Z and Beyonce, but they can't control me. You see, it ain't no name I won't name. It's up.
They can control Shaq. They can control Charles Barkley. They can control LeBron James. They can control Jay-Z and Beyonce. Not you, man. But they can't control me. You see, it ain't no name I won't name.
This new interview comes after a relatively quiet week where the rapper and entrepreneur promised to go on a 1-month hiatus from talking to anyone, drinking alcohol, and having sex. It also comes after a whirlwind month in October, which saw Kanye West come under fire after a series of anti-Semitic statements made in interviews and on social media. What do you think about Kanye saying his mom was sacrificed? Let us know in the comment section below.
In Nasarawa State, talk to students of the Nasarawa State University, KEFI, on the recurrent situation that has been going on, how robbers are attacking students who live in their lodges just across the school campus. Let's talk to a few students and get their opinion and get what they have to say on the recent occurrence.
It has been a rough couple of weeks for the students of Nasarawa State University, KEFI, as armed robbers stormed BCG, family and friends, and Gwanlambu area and collected their belongings. The robberies have been reportedly going on for over a month, and many students have been attacked and severely injured.
And we've been having incessant cases of robbery attack from various student hostels. Like, the thing has become so rampant that the next compound will be waiting for their turn. Like, they will come to this compound and leave a message for the next compound that they are coming. And they don't normally come like 1 or 2. They come in their 30s, in their 10s, so to speak, you know, and all that. So the thing is very, very, very serious, such that students now keep vigil to make sure that their hostels are not busted. Those that have encountered them confess that they came, they do come with arms, with daggers, with cutlass, and in some instances, some people confess that they saw them with a gun, whether it's a den gun or it's an automatic gun, that we cannot say, because none of such things have been, displayed by the authorities. But we know that they normally come armed. They come armed with cutlass, daggers, sticks, and all sort of lethal weapons that you can imagine. Mode of operation, you can say they have insiders. By that I mean there are people that are resident in these areas that are bad eggs. They are leading them to different compounds to do all this, bad act they are doing. But majority of them are not resident in this particular community of students. Yeah, they just come in either from the nearby Maraba or some of these suburbs, and they came to perpetrate, because those that chased them to the bush said that these guys are not just normal, all these clean guys that bath. They are like rugged guys. They know the terrain. They run into swamps. They run into bushes as speedious as anything you can think of, because they know the way they are going.
The armed robbers, who are said to come in their numbers, invade the students' lodge, break their doors to gain access into their rooms, where they rob and attack them. Victims of this ordeal narrate their encounter.
What happened was that in my own area, though it has been happening for over 3 weeks now, almost, yeah. So I think last week Thursday they came to our side to around 2 a.m. on Thursday, and robbed us and collected our phones, injured some people, collected laptops, iPhones, and so on like that. And they were much in number.
The unrest we have been having in this school environment, we have been terrorized by armed robbers and thieves, which have been very disturbing to the students. I myself was a victim. They collected my phones, iPhone 12 Pro Max, and my laptop, and they tried to rape my younger sister. But I was trying to struggle with them. That was when I noticed that they were very, very plenty. They were up to 30. They collected my friend Oppo, as you can see him over there. They collected many things. They attacked me. And they came around telling us, we reported to the school security actually. They were telling us things will be done. There was even a curfew. But all the curfew was to no avail. In utmost good faith, the curfew was nothing. It meant nothing. Because even under the curfew, we were still attacked. The student was caught. His arteries was cut off. We don't even know it was hire killer or kidnappers or armed robbers. We don't even know what we are facing, but we are ready for them now.
In a quest to speak to some of the vigilante group located at Family and Friends area while conducting this report, we were met with an empty office. Speaking to Gabriel Paul, National Association of Nigerian Students Secretary, he states that the Nasarawa State University student government have met with some of the victims and are currently collaborating with different security operatives and the Emir of Kefi to ensure that such incidents doesn't reoccur.
The issue of the attack on students is unhealthy, that is one. And secondly, we have a room which is a platform at SG, and also in collaboration with the school management, we have discussed down even to the Emir of Kefi. We have an interface with them. We have discussed extensively that precisely BCG, which is the precise location that those things happen, which is unhealthy to students, we were able to map out some strategies. We met with the police officers, which is the DPO. We also met with the Emir of Kefi and also with the Vice Chancellor to also visit those particular locations that those attacks have been carried out. And recently we were able to lay our hands on those 2 or 3 people that are creating those nuisance in this vicinity, and the police assure us that it's going to be patrol towards that location and even in the school vicinity. Like yesterday night, the police and also the military personnel are all around. I want to tell in confidence that the school management at their own end, they are not relenting. They're making sure that they are consolidating on what they told us, that they'll make sure the insecurity, they'll treat to the barest minimum, because you agree with me that insecurity is a global issue. It's not just a one-side issue. So as such, we are trusting God that together with the SUG, with the Emir, with the security personnel, all those issues will be settled. According to witnesses, 3 suspects have been arrested, but efforts made to speak to the police to confirm this were abortive, as we were told that the DPO was not on seat. Adav Talib Atta, Alive News.
The future of decent jobs for our youth is to make sure that they are upskilled, they're given the digital skills they need, they're also given the finance and credit they need to start
Youth bulge has become a common phenomenon in most developing countries. Accounting for 70% of the country's population, it is no longer contention about how numbers speak volumes for a country, society, and organization. The United Nations in July released the 2022 World Population Proposals. The report projected that global population will reach the 8 billion mark by 2050 and that India will surpass China as the most populous country in the world with a whopping 1.66 billion people. Nigeria, according to the projection, will be the fourth most populated country on earth with 375 million people, with youth accounting for about 262 million of this population. What does this mean for Nigeria? How does Nigeria then react to this bulge? Is Nigeria's youth bulge a bane or a boon? We will find answers to these questions on today's edition of the program. Welcome to Politics Alive, everyone. I am Olugbenga George. Joining me to have this conversation is Nigeria's Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Chief Sunday Akindare. It's good to have you join me today, sir.
Thank you, Benga, for having me on the live news.
Let's begin this conversation immediately because I just reeled out some statistics which I'm quite sure that you're very much abreast of in Nigeria. Rising population, that is statistics, went further to say that at the moment, Nigeria has about 217 million people, which for me is a whooping sum, and I'm sure you will agree in the real sense of it. And interestingly, it is important to note that 70% of this population are people, young people below the age of 30. So you are looking at the larger percentage of people between 18 and 25. And of course, the other side, that are just a little above 30 to meet the youth age demand, which is about 35%. So you put these two people together, you're talking about 262 million people. That is huge, I must say. And when you also put this together, you will see either see a set of people who will perhaps need education, will need to go to school, who will also need jobs after graduating from school. This same set of people. And you also have the part that, having been done primarily with schooling, will also need to move on to the higher echelon of life and, get settled, begin to demand the basic necessities. So it's a chain when you look at it, and quite a lot of things that these people will need. But basically, when we look into the Nigerian situation, from many parts of the things that ought to be, that we could call basic amenities, we find out that it is lacking, it is unavailable, for this set of people, this population, that forms the greater percentage of the country. And of course, it makes the picture look bleak. And you would agree with me that successive governments, since independence, have tried their hands on making sure that, to some extent, the lot of the youth improve and get better in Nigeria. Your administration is also inclusive. I mean, the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, which, of course, you are serving as the Minister for Youth in the second dispensation. I'd like to know, as a matter of speaking, what specific thing you would consider to be your most glorious moments, in the sense of what would you say you have done as the Minister of Youth and Sports Development that you are most proud of? Especially we're filling these gaps of jobs, of education, and all the rest is concerned in Nigeria.
Well, let me first say that the youth bulge has been around for nearly a decade. We've seen the trajectory in the last 8 to 10 years on an incremental basis. So the report that just came out bears testimony to the fact that the youth bulge has been around for us. But also for Africa as a continent, and also for Nigeria, one of the African countries from the report I read will have the youngest youth population. But bringing it back home, the youth bulge, the data we have seen so far, the projections are compelling. And what this data does at this time, coming at this time, is to get governments to really sit back, hunker down, and really invest in our youth and in youth development. Beyond what any government will have done in the past, it's important to have very detailed programs for the youth over time. In terms of national policies, in terms of projects, in terms of initiatives. To a very large extent, before I come to what we have done, I must also say that at a global level, we must have a youth agenda driven by the United Nations. Because when we have a global blueprint, countries can easily key into it, and then we can pool resources, not only from national funding, but also global funding. You see the approaches we've had to malaria, approaches we've had to climate change. The youth bulge and the youth challenge ought to be a top agenda, like we have the climate change and the resources coming into that. But I also think that countries, while waiting for that global approach and that Marshall Fund that will come in, countries must sit up, look at their data, and based on research, know what needs to be done. I think under President Muhammadu Buhari, what we have done is we've seen over 45 different youth-focused programs. Some of them are still ongoing. Some of them have wound down. Some of them will start very soon, even though they're just 4 months to go. I speak to one of them, which is the Empower program, the very first that came up 7 years ago, reputed to be the best in sub-Saharan Africa, a youth empowerment program. We have the number going up to about 1 million youth that are benefiting from it. That's one. Two, and that Empower program also has NTech and Agric. So it has a lot of flavors, about 5 different flavors. And several of our youth are benefiting from that. Then we talk about the youth investment, the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, NYIF, the very first of its kind, established by this government. 75 billion naira was approved, 75 billion naira spanning over 3 years. We're in the second year, we're still pulling those resources. So far, we've had about 4.1 million Nigerians youth apply. About 32,000 have been approved. Over 28,000 have already assessed this loan. We hope that in the next 2 months or so, we're going to onboard another 50,000 youth that will benefit. This fund is for entrepreneurship. And it speaks to the fact that beyond white-collar jobs, beyond civil service jobs, what else can we do to quickly get our youth employed? We live in an age of digital skills, over 150 digital skills. We see the Asian countries emphasizing skills, hands-on, entrepreneurship, innovation. And then we've seen our youth really have the skills for this. So the future of decent jobs for our youth is to make sure that they are upskilled, they're given the digital skills they need, they're also given the finance and credit they need to start businesses. No country has been able to solve youth unemployment problem without placing its youth deliberately on the path of entrepreneurship. And that's the future. We have SMEs, we have SMEs, we have micro businesses. All of this can grow. The strength of our economy today is the small businesses, the micro businesses.
Well, I'm glad you talk about that. I'm glad you talk about small businesses and how much they impact on the economy at the moment. You will agree with me that since you've talked about empowering the youth to ensure that they are able to fill the spaces and able to participate, we've seen quite a lot of things that you've done in this administration. The sports ministry, for example, netting about 35 medals in just a single year in 2022 in the sports sector. You've also talked about the 30,000 youth empowerment program, the NPower program. You speak about the Nigeria Youth Investment Fund,
right?
That are the first.
And there are a couple more. There are a couple more programs that we have done. As we speak now, we're running the second edition of the 60-day app challenge. When we had the app challenge 2 years ago, we had thousands of our youth who are innovators really come up. and then we did a competition. About 10 of them won. At the villa, some of them they were able to showcase what they've done. Some of them got $1 million, 1 million naira, sorry. Some got $500,000 naira. Out of these 10, 4 of them have gone to win several international awards. So the second edition is running now. Last year, we started the training on cybersecurity. Over 61,000 of our youth applied. Because as a ministry, we found out that there are so many jobs waiting to be taken up in the cybersecurity world. We need cybersecurity certified experts. We've trained about 61,000 of them. A few of them will move on to the second stage of training and then eventually get certified. So overall, we've done close to 280 to 300,000 trainings equipping our youth with skills. But let me tell you the elephant in the room. Because when you talk about population of the youth, you talk about the talent of the youth. You need to speak to how you're going to absorb these talents into the system. And that's why we have the training, the fund for entrepreneurship. But the challenge, the elephant in the room, is the scale. You see, when you have 10 million youth waiting in line, and you're able to provide training for just 1 million youth, it seems as if you've done nothing. And then it boils down to the question of resources. The resources. The resources allocated to youth development in a deliberate way, side by side with resources to education, because the quality of education is also important. Most of our youth are unemployable because there's a skills mismatch. People coming out of the universities, what the degrees they have do not match the jobs available. I talk about cybersecurity. How many people, graduates of cybersecurity, do we have? So there must be a deliberate market survey, which we have done, so that we can deal with the issue of skills mismatch. Once you come out, you will have been trained in a course of study where you have opportunities. But scale is important. And that's why strategic implementation partners, because you know that government alone cannot do it. And we've seen, the positive effect of that. IBM, Google My Business, quite a number of them. Microsoft have worked with us to just keep training our youth over time.
Those are achievements, programs that the administration are doing. But it will shock you to know, Honorable Minister, that a lot of youth are not even aware of some of these things that you are doing. The other time, I was speaking to a set of youth, and it will shock you to know, school educated, that they do not know about the existence of a program like NPower. Yes, because ultimately nothing connects them with the government. You also have, you talk about NPower and some of these other programs that you are talking about. People are unaware of their programs. And I'm wondering how much that has impacted on benefiting or not benefiting from this.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, no government ever has sufficient funds to go around. No ministry will ever have the funds that it needs. But also, we've operated on a public-private partnership, which most governments in the world encourage. Under President Muhammadu Buhari, we've had great support and encouragement in that direction. And we have seen positive results. For instance, the IBM during COVID, through the on it, we see Surulere Stadium after 19 years on its way back. We've seen stadium in Dara and a couple of other places. Then adopt an athlete. We've seen 48 of our athletes adopted. Just to help them prepare for international competitions, getting between $10,000 and $20,000. So we are also seeing a president who, as in the last 3.5 years, I can say, because that's the time I've been in charge of the Sports and Youth Ministry, help us we've moved from 2.6 billion naira budget as a ministry to as high as 8.5 billion naira approvals. Beyond that, we've also seen the provision of almost 4.6 billion or thereabouts under the sustainability effort that came up after COVID, in which we were able to train a lot of people. So in the last 3.5 years, we've had an increment in our finances. This same president approved 75 billion naira for 3 years. Never happened before. Under this same president, we had the opportunity to have a seat at the table when they prepared the ERPG, the National Development Plan. And for the very first time, 2021 to 2025, youth development will get 62 billion. Sports development will get 80 billion. in excess of 140 billion naira. It's never happened before, projected in the next 4 years. A collaboration between the private and the public sector. So, you know, they are really good signs. We have policies in place, we have initiatives in place, and if there's a continuum thereafter, this story will change.
You know, it's quite interesting how you preempt the next question that is about to come, and then you deliver it with just one word. You have just preempted, you know, my next point, which you know takes me down to talking about continuity. Governance is a continuum, so to say. Successive governments, you know, have initiated programs and ideas, you know, geared towards empowering the youth and giving them, you know, better positioning within the Nigerian economy. I'll take you back, for example, to the closest one, which is the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan, you know, who introduced quite a number of exciting programs. I must say that one of those programs, you know, that still excites me till now is the UN programming of that era, where you had youths getting access to financing their businesses to the tune of 8 to 10 million naira. And you had a lot of youths benefiting from it. And that's just one of the programs. You also have several other programs like the SureP, the Subsidy Reinvestment Program. SureP. I began to see quite a number of programs.
Well, let me say, you know, I've also read a lot of reports. You don't want to bring up SureP right now, because if we talk about SureP under PDP, you know, the details are horrific. And that's why when this administration came on, we decided to review some of these programs and come up with something better that's more sustainable. The Empower, for instance, there's a sustainable model built into the Empower program. Beyond that, you look at the social welfare program. There's a social national register for social welfare. Never, this government, in spite of its lean resources, is running a welfare program for the most vulnerable in our country. We've never had that before. So, continuum is important, but then you should not be afraid to review any program or policy that is in place. Review is a constant towards improving, towards plugging loopholes, towards making sure that it is better and it is impactful. That's very important. And like you said, the previous government made efforts. This current government has accentuated its efforts in different directions. I talked about 45 different youth programs. That was driven by the fact that we're having a youth bulge. We're having a youth population that needed more attention, that needed more investment. This administration has made the paradigm shift from just empowering our youth to investing in their skills and their innovative minds. You see, there's a gap, because when you're empowered, it's temporary. But when there's an investment, either in forms of giving you skills that you can use, either in forms of investing in your business, that is long lasting. Because if you are an entrepreneur as a youth, you can become a creator of wealth. You can become an employer of labor. As a youth, you have a business, you can employ 3 or 4 other youth. You can contribute to the GDP. And we have data that has shown what's going to happen. And I think that we have been able to set down the foundational structure and policies that is necessary to be able to deal with the scale. What we need to do is bring a commitment of resources that will match these good ideas, so that we can increase and scale up the number of our youth that will take off the unemployment market. We can increase the number of our youth that will place on the path of entrepreneurship. And all of this will connect together. But then, right now, the model is that the private sector must interface and work with the government to be able to achieve this.
Honorable Minister, that's quite interesting, you know, that we have prospects of more youth, you know, of more entrepreneurs, you know, becoming independent financially, contributing to the economy of Nigeria. But you would also agree with me that even the big companies are not finding it easy at the moment. When you talk about the rise in inflation rate, inflation at the moment is over 21% in the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and increasing taxation, that continues to also rise as governments as government, enforces its, revenue generation, or intensifies its revenue generation, so to speak. I would like you, to speak to the Japa syndrome and, how government is trying to provide solution to this, and yet you still have a lot of Nigerian youth wanting to leave the country.
Yeah, in fact, it's good you brought up the Japa syndrome. But let me, my entry into answering that question will start from what you said earlier, that the lack of trust in government programs. I often say that when the MTN as a company says that we're going to do an interview or a training, people rush in because they believe MTN. When the Ministry of Youth and Sport says, oh, we want to do X, people don't come at all because they believe it's not true. When you don't enter a race, you don't expect to win. When you don't apply, and you don't apply yourself to the opportunities available, you don't benefit. So you cannot blame anybody for it. I agree that over time there's been a deficit in trust between government and the people, especially the youth. But also, it's important. Even the MTN thrives because there's a government in this country and it functions. Without government, without regulation, without some of the things that a government provides, MTN will not thrive. So if the same government says we have this opportunity, what do you lose if you apply and you don't get it? It's just that you don't get it. I can tell you that hundreds of thousands of our youth who have been able to have that modicum of faith in government, who have applied, have benefited tremendously. And I keep making the urge to our youth to say what we have done is to also democratize the recruitment process. In the past, it was a bit manual. Forms are printed and then circulated and is limited. Now we go on social media. We did a research. Why is the best place to meet the bulk of our youth in this country? It's on social media. If you're not on Facebook, you're on Instagram. So we tell people, we announce Baraza. Unlike you waiting for your lawmaker to bring a form to you, which is limited, very limited, now you open it up and everybody can apply online. So unless you apply, you cannot benefit from government. And that's the way it is all over the world. Whether you distrust government or not is secondary. Once government opens the door and says come in, you need to come in first and see what the goods that are there. If you find the goods in that room not okay for you, you walk back out. But you might just find one or two goods that are okay for you. And that's the play I have to most of our youth, that efforts are being made to make sure that these programs are as transparent as possible. But if there's an opportunity, give it a shot.
Honorable Minister, I've been tinkering with some thoughts in my head, especially where this syndrome of Japaism is concerned. Our statistics provide that in 2021 alone, we had about $17.21 billion remitted from diaspora remittances in the country, which is way above what we have gotten in Nigeria in foreign direct investment from countries, from businesses, from foreign direct investments into Nigeria. So that goes to show that the Japaism, or wanting to migrate from Nigeria, brings some sort of benefit to the country. But I would like you to speak to the issue, especially how you think the country can help to expand this. How can we take advantage of this? Is it possible, for example, that Nigeria finds a way, to help those who want to travel legally, so that their data is captured, and when they go, we know that this automatically goes to improve, diaspora remittance in the country.
You see, every country. I've lived overseas for over 14 years. I lived in the US. And every country has the Japa syndrome. I see the influx of people from the former Czech Republic, people from Russia, getting into Europe, getting into America. So the Japa syndrome is found everywhere. It's just the percentage of it, dependent. But within the Japa syndrome, which of course is a two-way street, people are Japaing out of the country. but some people are also returning the country. The volume might be different. I have a lot of my friends that have come back to set up businesses. Some of them still stay there, but they're here every 3 months to pursue their, because this economy and this country is still viable. This is a country in which you can invest in pure water today, and 1 year down the road, you break up in profits, employing other people. So there are opportunities. Maybe certain things might not be exactly as we wanted in terms of energy provision and all of that. Now, the positive angle of JAGBA, which we never talk about, is the remittances. People that have gone out because we're skillful, are able to get great jobs. They remit money back into the economy, helping their families and the young one. That trend is mostly based on your skills, professional skills. Government cannot really be a central agency to facilitate the exit of its citizens out of the country. That, of course, is the freedom and right of every individual. But what we can do as a government, because I've asked so many people, why did you leave the country? There's insecurity. Electricity is not constant. There are no jobs. Hardly does anyone really say, oh, if I start a business, I will not profit from it. So some of these key issues have been addressed on a gradual basis. And the appeal is that it's a government, like I say, is a continent. As this government made efforts to address these issues, absolutely. But no government ever solves all the problems in a lifetime. Some problems, you look at them, will take 15 years. And I keep telling our youth, and I tell most people I engage with, we say America is this today, the United Kingdom is today. Just back up a bit, do a bit of research. How old is America today? Over 200 years. How old is the United Kingdom? We are barely 66, 67. Can you check where America was at the age of 67 as a nation? Or the United Kingdom? You'll be shocked the stage they were. Here, we're in a better stage when it comes to technology, when it comes to so many other things we have. So I say, well, you know what? Nations and developmental stages also need time. What we need to know is, are we progressing at a pace we should, so that when we're 200 years like America, we can be able to say we have a full society. So Nigeria is not America today. It won't be America today. But we have signs, and the greatest sign we have is the youth of this country. Resourceful, innovative, talented, professional. We see them go out of this country and excel. And I say, any government that fails to invest in a deliberate manner, on a consistent basis, in the youth of this country, that country will not advance.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. It's been a wonderful conversation with you. Thank you so much. All right, viewers, that's where we come to the end of this conversation. It's been a wonderful conversation with the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sport, Chief Sunday Akindare, talking about the efforts of the Buhari administration in improving the lot of youth in the country. We will bring him back and have more conversation on youth concerns in the country. So then, keep watching our live television. I am Olubinga. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Shall we take the national anthem, please? 1, 2, go.
Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's foremost and faith. The heroes past shall never be served with heart and mind in freedom, peace and unity.